Welcome to CET 93 FM. I am Paul Malia. Today we bring to you a new episode in the series featuring Indian women writers. In this episode, we introduce the Naga author and poet Easterin Kyer. Kyer, who currently lives in northern Norway, has written and published a number of short stories and anthologies of poetry. Most of her writings are based on the lived realities of the people of Nagaland. Her 2003 book, A Naga Village Remembered, was the first ever English novel by a Naga writer. Her second novel, A Terrible Matriarchy, published in 2007, was selected to be translated into UN languages. Her 2015 novel, When the River Sleeps, was awarded the Hindu Literary Prize. Other notable works by Kyer are Mary and Bitter Wormwood. Today, we present the first chapter of the novel, A Terrible Matriarchy, which tells the evocative story of a young girl growing up in a traditional society in India's northeastern region, which is in the midst of a tremendous change.
My grandmother didn't like me. I knew this when I was about 4.5. I was sitting in her kitchen with my brother Bewley, older to me by 2 years, when she served us food, hot rice and chicken broth. What meat do you want? She simpered sweetly as she ladled out gravy and meat. I quickly piped up. I want the leg, grandmother, give me the leg. I wasn't asking you, silly girl, she said as she swiftly put the chicken leg into my brother's plate. That portion is always for boys. Girls must eat the other portions. I didn't understand why, and I didn't care to ask why not. I was also too hungry to serve, so I sat and quietly ate her food. Funny, at grandmother's house, it was always her food. I never thought of it as food. It had to be attached with the pronoun her to make it clear that it was food cooked and served by grandmother, so she had every right to do with it as she wished, serving for instance chicken leg to my brother and none to me. I don't remember telling my mother about that incident. I think I knew even then, young as I was, that mother would have that terribly hurt look on her face and she would go dumb and then come back with many questions. Questions that I did not always have answers for, like how many pieces of meat did grandmother serve me? What did her face look like when she was rebuking me? Did she take my brother on her lap? Did she take me on her lap? Why didn't she take me on her lap? Did I say all the nice things I had been taught to say, or did I forget some? Did I greet her first, or did she greet us first? Endless questions. Mother would have made a good interrogator. She never left out any aspects to be questioned. She covered everything meticulously. One thing about mother was her meticulousness. She was always neat and orderly. So it was a pain for her to pick up after me and my 4 brothers. I was the youngest in a family of 5 children, and father and mother made it 7. I sometimes felt I was an afterthought, and maybe father and mother didn't quite know what to do with me. Also, because I was a girl after 4 boys, they never seemed to be sure whether to buy me girls' clothing or let me wear leftover boys' clothing. So I have vivid memories of alternating between wearing new girls' dresses which were tight and uncomfortable and short in the leg, or old, torn at the knees boys' trousers and stained t-shirts which were immensely comfortable. We never had enough to eat. My brothers were always hungry. We rarely had leftovers in our kitchen. My aunt, who was rich and had only 2 children, a girl and a sickly boy, threw away food because the children did not want to eat and she always made too much. Of course, she did not throw it away as that would have been taboo, but she fed it to the pigs. Silly woman, said father. Doesn't she know I have 5 hungry mouths here? Why throw away good food? Hush, father. Don't let the children hear you talking like that. We have enough to eat in this house, said mother. But that wasn't true. I had often seen her scraping the pot and giving it to Leto, my elder brother, or taking out meat pieces from her own plate to slip into Winnie's plate, saying she was full. The boys never refused. They never seemed to think that she might be wanting to eat it herself. Oh well, that was mother, and in later years she still would not indulge herself. She thought it was sinful to eat too much of the food one really liked or wear more than 2 new clothes in a year. Maybe it was because she had to listen to grandmother's taunts if she bought anything for herself. When she went to church, mother would throw an old shawl over her new blouse if she was wearing it for the first time. Mother was not the only daughter-in-law that grandmother had. There were my 2 uncles whose wives were just as much in awe of grandmother. They were not as poor as us though, and they lived far from grandmother. So I suppose they had a better time of it than poor mother. She always looked worried and nervous, and she was most worried over me. Do you know your mother was the prettiest girl in the village? Said one of her cousins visiting for a couple of days. I didn't believe him. Mother with her face and clothes always wrinkled. How could she possibly have been pretty at any age? I thought she was born with that worried expression on her face. It was like she wanted to please and yet did not quite manage to please, and that set a constant anxious look on her face. The person she feared most was grandmother, and I hated grandmother with a vengeance because nothing my mother ever did seemed to please her. Nino, you sent the elder boy to fetch water, I hear. Grandmother began in a low voice when we went visiting her. But there was an edge to her voice that made it sound like a real threat instead of a casual query. Mother, I could not leave my cooking. It was only once, mother. Send the girl next time. That is girl's work. No man in my day has ever fetched water. Yes, mother, said my mother timidly, ignoring altogether the look of utter dismay I threw at her. The water pot was almost as big as I. How did grandmother think I would be able to fetch water in it? Why did mother say that I was too small to go yet? Then I remembered that she had once said that I was small and grandmother had said that she began to fetch food at 4. I was almost 5, so I guess mother didn't have any excuses anymore. The girl must start working at home. Don't let her run about with her brothers anymore. That is not the way to bring up girl children, said grandmother on another visit. She always referred to me as the girl. Why doesn't grandmother call me by my name, mother? Why does she only call me the girl? Doesn't she like my name? Don't say things like that, Delino. She probably thinks you are special as you are the only girl. She can't talk about the boys and call them the girl, could she? I accepted the explanation, but when she was still calling me girl 2 years on, I said, Grandmother, my name is Delino. Remember you gave me my name? Why don't you call me by my name? She pointed her stick at me and snapped. Don't be cheeky to me, girl. I decided it was easier to let her call me anything she wanted. I wasn't sure if she would try to land her stick on me. One day, when Leto and I went to her house with a basket of vegetables that mother had given, grandmother sat down and called Leto to her. Come here, my dear boy. Let me see how big you have grown. My, you are a big boy now. I could see Leto didn't want to be carried by her. After all, he was turning 13 next month. But he let her have her way. I readied myself to be carried, but after she finished with him, she turned to me and said, Go bring in another piece of wood and put it on the fire. It's by the shed outside. I ran off and ran back, hoping to be carried and told that I had grown bigger. But she had forgotten all about it and had hobbled to the almirah to give a lump of jaggery to Leto. My brother saw me return and gave me a bit to lick at. Enough, it is for you, said grandmother and closed the almirah with a loud bang. We didn't stay long after that. One afternoon, my father's cousin Atto came to visit. Uncle Atto was great fun. He would swing me around and play with me or let me tickle him.
You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
I was so enjoying his company that I began to climb up his right shoulder when I saw a shadow at the door and the unmistakable tap of grandmother's stick on our wooden floor.
I desperately clambered down, but it was too late. The stick caught me on the back of my calf before I reached the floor. Girl, what do you think you are? A monkey? Her face was red with rage. I have never seen such a badly behaved girl. Aunt, I was playing with her. My uncle quickly spoke up in my defense. She wasn't bothering me. She's a child. Don't be so hard on her, aunt. She's a good child. No girl, she spluttered. No decent girl climbs up a man's shoulder. Good heavens, aunt, she is just a child. They have to be taught young. Uncle Atto kept quiet after that, probably realizing that he was only making things worse for me. I slid away and stayed out of her way the whole evening. I was not going to keep quiet about it though. As soon as father came home, I said loudly, I hate grandmother Vibano. Father was shocked. Why, Leno? He asked. Before mother could tell him her version, I burst out. Because she wouldn't let me play with Uncle Atto today. We were playing and she hit me on the calf with her stick. Look, father, the place where she hit is red still. My leg bore an angry red mark and I saw a pained look on mother's face. Is this true? He looked at mother and she nodded yes. Father looked upset, but his face quickly changed expression and he said, It is for your own good. Your grandmother would never do anything to you that is not for your welfare. No, father, you don't understand. She hates to see me enjoying myself. You don't know how she is. She wouldn't let me eat Leto's jaggery when we were at her house. Leno, that is not respectful to your grandmother. She has had a hard life. She only wants to make sure you turn out to be a good woman. I ran from the room, my eyes smarting with tears. I wanted my father to take my side, but he spoke up for grandmother. That hurt deeply. How I wish grandmother would die. It was a wicked, wicked thought, but I thought it was even more wicked to hit a child for playing. I forgot the incident with grandmother the next day when mother's younger sister Fiona came visiting. Fiona was very pretty. She stitched me new dresses at Christmas time or for my birthday. That afternoon, she came home to mother and they stayed in the bedroom a long time talking. That was not unusual. They often did that when she came, but on that day she did not play with me or talk much to me. Her eyes were red like she had not slept the night before. Leto had red eyes like that when he went hunting and they stayed up the whole night. They locked the room and let me in only for a short while before opening the door and telling me to go play with the neighbor kids. Later, when Fiona had gone, my mother hurriedly took my hand and we went to grandmother's house. Play a while, mother said to me, so I happily made dolls out of the old clay left by my cousins in the yard. If I wet the clay with water, I could mold it into a car. It was more fun to play with clay than with dolls. When mother looked distracted as she did tonight, she didn't scold me even if I got my clothes dirty with mud. Come on, Leno, we are going, mother called after some time. So I ran to her. Halfway home, she stopped and said, Oh no, my purse! I have forgotten it in your grandmother's house. Do run back and get it, Leno. I have to get back home and cook before your father comes. I ran back to grandmother's house and slowed down at the door because she did not like girls running. Her sister was there too. I heard loud voices. That's right, it was her younger sister. She has gotten pregnant and they have to marry her off. Terrible. I hope her mother realizes that you have to raise girls on a tight leash so this sort of thing doesn't happen. They let her run around too much. I just knew this would happen. Bad blood in that family. That's what my mother told me. It was my grandmother's voice. I hesitated a bit and then walked in. They were startled to see me. Very nonchalantly, I said, Mother left her purse behind. And then I spotted it on the low stool, so I grabbed it and said bye before they could stop me and ran off. You think she heard? My grandmother was asking her sister. No, she is too absent-minded, that child. She wouldn't have understood even if she heard. When I mentioned to mother what grandmother had said to her sister, mother's face went very pale. She put a hand on her mouth and looked as though she would faint. Bad blood, did she say that, Leno? I nodded yes, and mother held my hand so I wouldn't slip off and she begged. Please don't ever tell anyone what you heard. Please, Leno, promise me. I hated seeing mother look hurt or worried, so I bit my finger hard and showed it to her. Oh, my child, was all that she said, and she gave me a little hug before letting me go. A week after that, Fiona was married, but it wasn't in church, and I was disappointed. I didn't get to be the flower girl. All that happened after grandfather died. I remembered grandfather a bit. He was a nice, friendly man who would try to teach us a lot of things. But I can hardly recall them now. If we ran into his study, he would speak to us in English and we giggled because it made no sense to us. But one day he got sick all of a sudden, and before they could get him to the hospital, he died. So they turned the car around and brought him home to lay him in a long coffin, for he was a tall man and there was a night-long vigil. The next afternoon they buried him, but not before several people made many speeches for he was quite old and that was what they did when really old folk died. My brother Bewley and I thought he would come back after a few days, and so we waited a long time at the grave. When mother thought we were playing, we were actually at the grave digging up the fresh soil from the corner. Seen anything yet? I asked, while Bewley dug with a little spade. I think it's a bone. I saw something white. After 4 days, we stopped digging because Bewley's spade wasn't very big. It was just a play spade, and in any case, he couldn't possibly have managed a real spade. When is grandfather coming back? I asked mother one day. Back from where? She asked in a very surprised tone. When he's finished dying, isn't he coming back? Oh, Leno, don't you know that when people die, they never come back? They go to another place. Their bodies turn into soil. That's why we bury them under the ground. Oh, is it so? No wonder Bewley and I couldn't find anything when we were digging, I said. Mother looked shocked. What? Where have you been digging? At the grave, of course. We were trying to help dig up grandfather. Oh my God, don't ever let your grandmother hear that. Ah, it's not your fault. You didn't know, and we never thought of telling you. After that, it wasn't so much fun anymore to go visiting grandmother because she was even more ill-tempered than before. When grandfather was alive, he would chide her if she was hard on us. He liked to call us to him and give us sweets, rock candy at Christmas time, and funny little chocolates in animal shapes on Sundays. It wasn't every day that he would do this. It was only Sundays that we were given sweets. So we always persuaded mother to take us visiting grandfather on Sundays. Now that he was dead, no one remembered to give us sweets on Sundays. 4 Sundays went by without any sign of sweets. Bewley and I secretly agreed that it was pointless going to grandmother's house now. But mother was even more adamant on going. We went on weekdays as well. When I got home from school, mother would be waiting and she would say, "Hurry up and eat your food. We have to go see grandmother." But we have already been 2 days ago, I would protest. That's not the point, Leno. Don't you know she is lonely and we must keep her company? Don't you feel sorry for her? I really didn't feel sorry for her because grandfather's death had not made her a nicer person. She seemed to have grown more sour if that were possible. One night I was sleepless. Mother and father were talking in low tones. I thought I would fall asleep after some time as I usually did, lulled by their voices. But I could not sleep. I was not listening to what they were saying because they would only be talking about how Bewley was doing in math class or the field they were saving up to buy. But when they suddenly mentioned my name, my ears pricked up. Mother wants Leno to stay with her from now on, said father in a low voice. But I heard him and froze at the news. She's too young to be of much help yet, Visa, said mother. Yes, but that is how mother wants it to be and we can't possibly say no to her. I was horrified. They were talking about sending me to live with grandmother. What a terrible thought. I could not even bear to be with her more than an hour. If I had to live with her day in, day out, I would rather be dead. I hope I would die tomorrow. And I hope that when my parents found me dead in the morning, they'd be so sorry they ever planned to send me to live with grandmother. It won't be so bad, dear. Bano is also there. Leno won't have to do much work. Mother gets lonely, you know. Is it that? or does your mother think we are not raising her properly? You know, she has said that to me more than a dozen times. How can you say that of mother? She's a widow. What could you possibly be thinking? Father's voice was cold with anger. I am sorry, dear, but I worry that Leno is not going to turn out to be the ideal girl your mother so wants her to be. She is too full of life for that, and only I know what a sweet little girl she is. I don't want her to be with people who might misunderstand her and mistreat her. What? Are you saying that my mother would mistreat our daughter, her own granddaughter? Are you accusing my mother of meanness? Please, dear, you know I don't mean it like that, but the girl is still young and may not know how to please mother. Mother was right then. You are not raising her properly. She will leave tomorrow for mother's house, and I don't want to hear any more arguments about this. After that, they both went quiet. There was no way I could sleep having heard that. Father began to snore loudly, but mother was sniffing and trying to stifle her sniffing. I did fall asleep, though I stayed up with so many thoughts in my head. In my dream, I saw grandfather walking ahead of me. I ran up to him, having quite forgotten that he was dead. I tugged at his hand and we were playing together when his face suddenly changed and he became grandmother. And she shook off my hand and gave me such a stern look that I woke up suddenly in great fear. It was so real, my dream, and I had to lie in bed a long time till I remembered that it was a dream. But the things I heard last night came back to me, and how I wished I had not woken up.
That was Reshma M. narrating the first chapter from the novel A Terrible Matriarchy by the Naga author Easterin Khair. Hope that you all enjoyed this and some of you are tempted enough to get hold of the novel to continue reading. Chapter narration and audio editing Reshma M. Illustration and video editing Maithili Nair. Concept and realization Meera Siddharthan. This is Paul Malia signing off from CET 93 FM.